How long have you been doing this?
I'd say I started hanging around here, doing the kind of stuff late 70s. Remember one of the first topics was dealing with sentencing guidelines in a prison riot. And my background has always been, my environment, how I've been brought up, always attuned to issues that affect poor people, people that don't have power, people that sometimes are not part of the decision-making process. But if you want to go way back, I started hanging down here in the tunnels back in the mid-'60s because I only lived about 5 blocks from here. Well, I think, it doesn't just come to you like that. It's one of those things you have to take a look at your own background, how you were raised. Basically, I came from a low-income family. My dad was a disabled vet, which those dynamics do create situations for yourself. And as you grow, you see different things. And one of the things you see is how institutions interact with the individual or the family. Whether it be government, because I was involved with low-income housing, or getting the food stamps at that time. It wasn't no EBT card back then. And so as you grow older, you become aware, of those kind of dynamics and how they relate to you. There were just some things that I saw that I think needed correction or questioning, either of government or of private institutions, particularly when you see people saying, you can't fight City Hall, you can't deal with the insurance company, you can't do those kinds of things. And I've always had this kind of thing, yes, you can.
So give me an example of a case where you fought City Hall and won.
Well, I'll just say, a number of years, over the years, has been trying to get access to information, and that's one of the key things I think is important for citizens in order to do things or to get improvements or to find out what government is doing is information. For a long period of time, again, this was before I became knowledgeable about the Data Practices Act a number of years ago, the City Hall would say, you're not going to can't give that to you, or you can't go to this meeting or whatever. And so just by asking questions and looking up laws myself or asking people about laws, I found out, yes, you can go to public meetings. And again, this is, when I was in my teens, 16, 17 years old.
So you just gave me an example of how you have impacted the system in a bit. Give me an example now how maybe the system has impacted you.
Well, first of all, that's on the local level. I'm just sharing with you. The system has impacted me to the point to where I have to be aware and astute to the kinds of things that they do. A system, whether it be a governmental system or a private institution, because this is my gut for me personally. I just feel that, an institution is not humane. An institution acts on its own. It just does whatever it does. There's really no thinking of those when government does things or decisions. Sometimes it's by rote or even private institutions. So that's why those kind of impacts on me have made to where I've come to the legislature here to make sure, as one can, where laws can be made to regulate private institutions with regulation, or laws in that way, or with laws that can guide through due process, right to know, right to privacy or whatever, in terms of governmental institutions.
Or a specific incident that you can remember, or instance, a law that perhaps was created in great deal, to credit you and what you do here at the Capitol.
Yeah, I think one law that I did and have had impact on, and it's one of, just real quick to talk about that, is that to the viewers out there, it's important to say that you can make a difference. You can have impact. So in terms of impact, there are a number of laws that I've had impact on, whether it be from just maybe testifying all the way to writing up an amendment or a proposal. So I think it's important for the viewers to be aware of that. There's an extreme of that, to where I've done an example of an initiative which has now become law for the last 21 years, is the Access to Personal Records Law, where up until 1989, private employees did not have a statutory right to get access to their personnel records. That was an item that I borrowed concepts from other states, because some laws had those states, put it in a bill in terms of a draft, gave it to a Senate legislator, at that time was Senator Jean Merriam. Hey, this sounds like a good idea. And then we were on the roll. That became law, but then one of the other things that has happened since that time, as time has gone on, I have been able to get amendments in that law so it can be enforced by the Department of Labor and Industry when the private employer denies your rights. Secondly, you can get free copies of your personnel record. So it's one of the things, when you get something on the books, it's also important, if you have the time and you're willing, and a lot of the paid lobbyists up here do that, is to follow those things and to improve on those things.
In the time that you've been here, have you noticed that citizen advocates, the numbers have increased or decreased? And also, the level of passion, do you think it's increased or decreased through the years?
I think it's decreased. The why I say that is that because I think a number of people have just given up. I think in the 80s and 90s there was just a lot more, hey, but I think just the way the system has been. But I'm talking about now individual citizen advocates, lobbyists. Now there's the difference though between the group that comes up here of citizens for that one-day shot to protest something. They can make a difference. But one of the weaknesses from my perspective that I've seen sometimes, people will come up here for the big rally and all the political people will say, yes, I'm hearing you, or yes, I may disagree, but this. But then what happens, they all go away and they don't. And sometimes the issue that there might be a big group session up here made up of citizens, the issue can just slide under the rug. Now, I'm not saying all issues, but I'm saying a great many of them when you come to the rotunda here and you see the big demonstration. The citizens themselves have to take the initiative to find out phone numbers, email addresses, who their particular representative is, and to follow through, not just to go home and say, oh, we did something today.
And so do you have any advice to somebody who might be on the fence whether or not to jump in and become a little more active as a citizen advocate as we move into the election cycle? What kind of advice would you have? I
would say if someone is just interested just to dabble, to put their toe in the lake or whatever it might be, is take an issue or two. With the internet and all that, it's very easy to look up things, particularly at the state Senate and House of Representatives lines, to see what some of the internet. See, I'm not on the internet myself, but you know their websites where they might be able to have. You can do topical searches. I think one of the big issues this year is taxes. Should they go up? Should they be the same? Should they go down? School districts, they're maybe not getting enough money, maybe they need more. Those are privacy, openness in government. So the individual has to take a look at themselves where are some things they have an interest in. But they also have the choice of where they can get as extreme as I do, where I spend a lot of time up here, do a lot of testifying, or just writing a letter. Just letting someone know how they feel about it. Particularly, like you say, we're getting into the election cycle. No matter what party or what view of your viewers may be when they view this, I think it's important for them to take a look at the number of candidates that are running and ask them the kinds of questions or concerns that they have. Right there, in that way, as citizens, they can get involved, which then may translate to when January 4th, when the session opens up here, they may want to continue their involvement.
Is there anything you wanted to add, Rich?
No, other than just to say that this is kind of neat. I've always wanted to let folks who may view this program to say that you can make a difference and to get up and do something. It's your choice, but you can make a difference in the halls here of the Capitol. And I've done it myself, just a citizen who gets up and testifies once in a while and does other things.